We've been talking about the fact that God is not in control of what happens on the earth. What you and I see reflected in the world around us, the death, the disease, the destruction, that is not the will of God. It's the result of a spiritual war that's going on, that is being worked out in both the spiritual world and the physical world. And we've seen evidence of that war in other sharings that we've had. But I want to go to the book of Daniel, chapter 10. And I want to just take some time to read this chapter together. Because a lot of people expect too much from the Bible, in the sense that they expect God to lay out all the details of the spiritual war, that you ought to be able to read about it everywhere in the Bible. And that's really not the way God operates. God, just like He asks us to focus on the positive, God focuses on the positive. And there's much more in the Scripture about the blessings of God and the glory of God and the greatness of God and what's coming in the future than the problems that we're having here on earth. That does not mean that God doesn't have a piece of information here or there that we as students, as Christians, as His children, can piece together and see what's going on. From the scope, just to get the scope, what do we know? What we know is that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and then in an act of amazing love and grace gave rulership of the world to Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, in their sin in the fall, transferred the rulership to the devil. The devil offered that rulership to Jesus Christ, and we see that in Luke chapter 4, but Jesus Christ turned him down. And then we see that there are many verses, such as 1 John 5:19, that say that the devil is in control of the world. Hebrews 2:14 that says the devil has the power of death. And then other verses that portray the spiritual war. But here in Daniel chapter 10 is a really unique look at the spiritual battle. So let's go into Daniel chapter 10 and take a look at this. Daniel chapter 10 verse 1 starts out, in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia. And so this then, the Persian kingdom, this is in the 500s, the early 500s BC. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a revelation was given to Daniel, who was called Belteshazzar. It was Nebuchadnezzar that had given the name Belteshazzar to Daniel. Its message was true. Daniel got a revelation. Its message was true, and it concerned a great war. The understanding of the message came to him in a vision. And so now the Bible's going to explain the vision that Daniel got. So what we know then from this verse here in Daniel is Daniel gets a revelation. Later on, in a vision, he's going to get an answer. What we're going to find out is there was a 21-day period between the time he got the vision and the time he got the answer. So he says in verse 2, at that time I, Daniel, at what time? At the time I got the revelation. At that time I, Daniel, mourned for 3 weeks. I ate no choice food, no meat or wine touched my lips, and I used no lotions at all until the 3 weeks were over. So Daniel got this revelation, and it disturbed him, and he wanted an answer about it, and so he did what you and I do so many times do. He went to his knees to God in prayer. Because if you get a revelation from God, he said, God, I know you've got the understanding. I know you've got the answer. What is it you're showing me? You've probably had this happen to you. You've seen something in the Scripture or something's happened in your life and you've gone to God and said, God, what does this mean? And sometimes, if you're like me, you've had to pray for a while before you get any understanding. And here's Daniel. And he gets this revelation, and it came from God. So now he's on his knees. God, what does it mean? And he's praying, and he's asking, and he's not eating. He's mourning. He's demanding, God, please show me what this is. And then after 21 days, after 3 weeks, verse 4 says, on the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, the Tigris, I looked up. And there before me was a man dressed in linen, with a belt of the finest gold around his waist. Wow. His body was like chrysolite. his face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and his voice like the sound of a multitude. I don't guess I have to tell you, this isn't a human being. It says the understanding came in a vision. So now on the 24th day of the month, after 3 weeks in intense prayer and mourning, this phenomenal angelic being shows up. Verse 7, I, Daniel, was the only one who saw the vision. The men with me didn't see it. Daniel was a very important man, a very powerful man, so he had people with him. It says the men with me didn't see it. But such terror overwhelmed them that they fled and hid themselves. And you've probably been there in that situation where sometimes you just get a really creepy feeling, you don't exactly know why. So this angelic being appears to Daniel. The men that are with him can't see it, but man, it just gets all over them, and they finally just go away and hide. Whoa. Verse 8, so I was left alone, gazing at this great vision. I had no strength left. My face turned deathly pale, and I was helpless. Then I heard him speaking, and as I listened to him, I fell into a deep sleep, my face to the ground. A hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. He said, Daniel, you who are highly esteemed, consider carefully the words I'm about to speak to you and stand up, for I have now been sent to you. And when he said this to me, I stood up trembling. Then he continued, do not be afraid, Daniel. That's usually what messengers of the true God say. Don't be afraid. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. Wait a minute. Daniel had been praying for 21 days. This angel says, since the first day you started praying, I've been sent. Then why didn't you get here earlier? What do you mean coming 21 days later? And then he says why? Verse 13, but the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Well, now wait a minute. The prince of the Persian kingdom, did you hear the description of this? This angelic being, he was not stopped by any human prince. He was stopped by a demon. That demon is called the prince of the Persian kingdom. Now, this is causing a lot of problems if you believe everything that happens is God's will. If you believe that when you don't get an answered prayer answered, that's God's will. Somebody's sick, that's God's will. Somebody's killed in a car wreck, that's God's will. Then this section of Scripture is going to cause you some real problems, because what's God? I mean, putting together angelic gladiator contests? I'm going to have this angel fight against this angel. Ha ha! And I'm going to stand back and watch. Come on, that's not God. You know that. What's really going on here is there's a war, a real, genuine war between God and the devil. And the forces of evil win sometimes, and the forces of good win sometimes. When somebody dies unsaved, when they never make the choice for Jesus Christ, the forces of evil win. When somebody gets saved, gets born again, or does a good thing, then the forces of good win. And there's a war going on. You can see that war in the world around you. When we look out around us, we see the war in the spirit reflected in the war in the flesh. And here we see the prince of the Persian kingdom, this demon that was over Persia, fighting with this angel and not letting him through to answer Daniel's prayer. And Daniel stayed faithful in prayer, and that's why he got his answer. I know so many people that they'll pray once or twice for something, and if they don't get an answer, then they quit. There's a spiritual war going on. You and I need to pray, so that the forces of good can have the time to win against the forces of evil. Here's how it worked. Verse 13, this angel says, the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Then Michael, who you know is an archangel, one of the chief princes, came to help me because I was detained there with the king of Persia. And now I have come to explain to you what will happen to your people in the future, for the vision concerns the time to come. See, I believe that this didn't just happen 500 BC. I believe that there is the spiritual war going on around us all the time, and the decisions you make and the decisions that I make play a part. Let's not blame God for every sickness, every death, every unanswered prayer. That's not what God does. Jesus Christ is perfect theology, and we know how Jesus Christ lived. God is not the cause of all the evil and the suffering around us. There is a war going on. If you want to learn more about this, you can check out our book, Don't Blame God, where we talk much more about why God is not the cause of sickness and sin and death. God bless.